The United Kingdom's Ministry of Defense's latest intelligence update on Ukraine. October 15, 2023. Rail logistics remains critical for Russia to sustain its invasion of Ukraine. Russia uses rail to transport ammunition, armor, fuel, and troops. The rail network in occupied Ukraine is still largely operational, but vulnerable to Ukrainian attacks like artillery strikes, air-launched missiles, and sabotage. Disrupting rail supply lines requires consistent, focused attacks over time, as seen in past conflicts. Russia is working to maintain and improve rail lines in occupied Ukraine, including building a new line to Melitopol to speed up supplies to the Zaporizhzhia front. Russia is using civilians and civilian equipment to build the new Melitopol line faster, likely to complicate Ukrainian targeting and preserve military rail capabilities elsewhere. The new Melitopol line is within range of Ukrainian long-range precision weapons, presenting a potential target for disrupting a key Russian supply route. Ukraine's Armed Forces General Staff update. Fighting continues on day 599 of Russia's invasion, with 57 combat engagements. Russia launched missile, air, and artillery strikes across Ukraine. The situation remains active in eastern and southern Ukraine. No major changes on other axes. Russia shelled over 15 settlements in northern Ukraine from its territory. Ukraine repelled over 15 Russian attacks near Kupiansk and Lyman in the east. Russia conducted air and artillery strikes across the region. Fierce fighting continues around Bakhmut in the Donbass, with Russia launching failed assaults, air and artillery strikes reported. Ukraine repelled over 15 Russian attacks near Avdiivka. Russia launched air and artillery strikes in the area. Heavy fighting around Marinka, with Russia's attacks repelled. Air and artillery strikes launched by Russia. Ukraine continues offensive operations near Melitopol and Bakhmut, inflicting losses on Russian forces. Ukraine conducted airstrikes on Russian targets, while missile forces hit Russian troop concentrations, radars, and artillery systems. The Institute for the Study of War Russian Offensive Campaign Assessment. In a televised interview on October 15, Putin recently characterized Russian military actions around Avdiivka as an active defense rather than an offensive operation. This contrasts with previous rhetoric from Russian officials, describing the fighting near Avdiivka as offensive operations. Putin's shift in messaging likely aims to downplay expectations for major Russian advances in the Avdiivka area. While Russia has conducted heavy bombardments near Avdiivka, they are unlikely to achieve significant breakthroughs or encircle Ukrainian forces soon. Substantial territorial gains would require a massive, prolonged commitment of Russian resources that Putin seems to be avoiding. By claiming an active defense instead of an offensive, Putin looks to soften forecasts and give Russian forces more flexibility. Referring to an active defense allows Russia to continue strikes on Ukrainian positions without raising hopes for an imminent, decisive advance. The Institute for the Study of War key takeaways today. Russian information sources have scaled back initial optimism about Russian offensive operations near Avdiivka, likely reflecting decreasing momentum. Despite continued offensives on October 15, Russian forces have yet to make further gains around Avdiivka amid slowing operations tempo. Russian forces will likely persist with offensives at a reduced pace, remaining a threat without achieving decisive breakthroughs or encircling Avdiivka presently. Complaints from a prominent Russian blogger about military leadership highlight wider grievances among Russian troops over problems like inadequate support. Ukrainian counteroffensives proceeded near Bakhmut on October 15 with minor southward advances. Russian forces conducted offensives along several fronts on October 15, securing some localized gains. Claims of significant Russian reserves are exaggerated. Any new divisions are unlikely to be fully operational. A Kremlin-linked priest dispatched to Crimea signals intensifying Russian religious persecution in occupied Ukraine. Reporting from Ukraine update. Ukrainian forces continued advancing west of Tokmak, taking control of Russian trenches and fortifications. Video shows a cleverly executed Ukrainian tank assault that breached Russian defenses. Ukraine improved positions west of Robotyne, focusing on the first line of Russian defenses near Kapani. Russian sources confirm loss of trench network. Ukrainian drones detected Russian drone operators near Kutuzhivka, waited until they retrieved their drone, then called in HIMARS strike. HIMARS also struck Russian bases and likely ammo warehouses in Tokmak. Ukrainian sabotage attack hit railway in Melitopol used to supply Russian forces, part of ongoing special forces operations.